Hi everyone, I'm just doing a very short screencast here to talk to you a little bit about the annotated bibliography since that's coming up. As you can see, this is the section about the annotated bibliography on the syllabus. I just want to go over it again really quickly, and then I'll end by showing you a resource in case you're struggling at all with writing the annotated bib. First, you're going to be looking for at least 7 really good resources that you can write up in your annotated bibliography. I don't think finding 7 resources should be a problem for anyone. There should be at least 7 articles or something scholarly and peer-reviewed out there on almost any subject that I've heard people talk about. If you are in a very new area, and I can think of 1 or 2 people this might apply to, then you and I may need to talk individually about something else to fill in some of those entries. So for example, you might use some experiential knowledge, right, some primary experience to fill out a couple of entries in the annotated bibliography. But I would really like everyone to try very hard to come up with at least 7 resources that relate somehow to the research that you're doing. So make sure you're shooting for at least 7 entries. Keep in mind that a useful annotated bib, and by useful I mean that it's going to come in handy down the road, right? This is not a product that we're going to create and then just forget about. It's going to be really helpful in writing your literature review and maybe even beyond that in your paper. And annotated bibliographies are also pretty darn handy to have around years down the road when you're coming back to this work. So really spend some time on it. I hope you don't think of it as just busy work. But a useful annotated bib will summarize each source, analyze the credibility of that source, and then reflect on the usefulness to your specific project. So there are 3 things that you need to accomplish in that annotated bibliography, in each entry, rather, of that annotated bibliography. As always, I'm happy to look at drafts of annotated bibs or of anything if you get them to me enough in advance of the due date that I have time to look at it and provide you some worthwhile feedback. So having said that, I'm now going to click over to a resource that you might find useful, which is the Purdue OWL's page on annotated bibliographies. You can see the URL there. If you search, I believe if you search annotated bibliography and Purdue OWL, or maybe even just OWL, this is probably the first hit you get, but you do have the URL there in the top corner in case you need it. Note that it gives you a definition of a bibliography, it tells you what an annotation is, and then more importantly, it gives you those 3 bullets, right? And these are the 3 things I'm looking to see you do. You have to summarize the source, do a decent job of explaining what it says. Don't set it up as a straw man, right? Actually give some time to the author's argument, even if you disagree. Explain what it covers, what it's about, what the exigence for it was. So summarize that source. Then you're going to assess it. So evaluate whether it's reliable, whether it's useful. Are there a lot of other sources that are sort of similar in nature? If so, talk about them, cite them. This suggests that you should ask if the source is biased or objective. That's sort of a funny question because we've had these discussions about objectivity. So do what you will with that. Be critical about it is all that I ask. And this is also a great place to talk about the goal of the source. So at this point, if it is a source you disagree with or you think that it has some maybe serious methodological problems, here's where you can talk about that. And finally, reflect. So once you've summarized and assessed a source, and once you've done that explicitly, you probably have a pretty good idea of how and if you're going to use it. Hopefully, if it's showing up in your annotated bibliography, you are indeed going to use it. Even if it's only just to say, I am aware of this source, although I disagree with the author. That can be a valuable sort of credibility building thing to do. This last part, by the way, is really the most important. This is the part where you say how this affects your work, how it's shaping your work differently, how you're going to draw on it in the future. This is kind of the part where you get to really do some smart stuff that matters, right? That matters to you. So these are the things your annotated bibliography should include. The OWL goes on and talks a little bit about reasons why you should write an annotated bib. It gives you some format information. I will be honest with you, I do expect you to use standard, proper, appropriate format, but I'm far more interested in the content at this level. So as long as you turn in something that shows that you've made an effort and that it's readable and that it conforms to the appropriate standards, I'm going to be far more focused on content. And the last thing I'll mention is just that your annotations may be really different in length. So if you have an article that's a mainstay of your argument, right, if it's really important to what you're doing, you may spend a page or more writing the annotation for that particular source. You may have 3 or 4 more sources that are more of that thing I described earlier, the thing where you say, I've read it, I know about it, I've done my homework, but it's not actually super important to me, it's relevant, but it's not something I build my work on. Those will be much shorter. So just keep in mind that the annotations, as everything, as everything works in this class, they're the same way, right? You do what you need to do. You do what you need to do to accomplish the purpose that you've set out, which is to evaluate the source and set yourself up to do a good job on the next assignment, which is the literature review, and then after that, of course, the final paper. So I hope this is kind of a helpful talking through of the annotated bibliography. Just a final reminder, if this is something that's new to you, this is a great resource right here. This website is a great resource for you to look at, and of course I'm always available as well.